Hey there, everybody. This is Clark Brown coming at you live with Russell Wilson from Suncoast Claims, a very strong and powerful and just real honest private adjusting firm here that's serving the state of Texas. And we wanted to make a video for you today. But first off, hey, Russ, how are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing great, Clark. Thank you. Thank you so much for setting this up. And I just want to start this out with, as public adjusters here in Texas, we thank you so much for the help that you're bringing. I know you obviously live in Virginia, and you're bringing the right folks down here. My goodness, do we need your help? So thank you, first off. And that goes out to all the contractors that come down here to help our Texas clients. This event was unprecedented. It wasn't anticipated. The insurance companies certainly didn't plan for it. And as they say, now the fun begins. And we've already been engaged on multiple claims within just the first few days. And but I'm glad you're here because I know you're going to explain exactly your role and what you're doing. I'm all for it. And I know my contractor friends are going to be all for it too. But before you tell us more about what you're doing, your role, I just want to share some observations myself and the other members of our team are seeing. We're getting tons of referrals, and they're primarily coming from contractors that we've already worked with in the past on other kind of claims, primarily roofing claims. That's, this is Hail Central. So that's what we typically work. And these guys are rebranding. They're acting as GCs, which is fantastic. Because like I said, we need the help. There's not enough warm bodies to go around. And these guys are all very good, but they're walking into territory that they're not accustomed to. And the first claim we walked out on, my peer, Trent Gagnon, and a lot of you who watch this video probably are familiar with Trent. He's our lead, primarily commercial, but he's doing some residential of this as well, field public adjuster. And when I say field, he's the guy that actually goes out and physically does the negotiating in the field with the adjuster, where I'm more of a policy expert. They don't trust me. I sit at a desk all day. Trent's background, before becoming a public adjuster, he was a State Farm staff adjuster on the catastrophe team. He did large loss. He did Katrina. He did these hurricane claims. He did a lot of business interruption. He did a lot of loss of rents. He did a bunch of additional living expense, the ancillary stuff that comes along with when you've lost use of your property, in addition to the property itself. So long story short, the first one he went on, he got there before the adjuster did. The contractor had already started tearing things out. The contractor knew, hey, this thing is a mess, and I got to get as much of this, wet flooring and carpet and drywall out of here because it's creating an issue. When Trent walked in the door, he said he paused and he goes, "My God, this reminds me of Katrina." He goes, "This house, the inside of this house looked like a flood plain." And he realized at that point, this is not just a simple matter of pulling up some flooring, replacing some drywall, and moving on down the road. The adjuster shows up. The adjuster was like kind of taken back as well. And then when Trent kind of gave him his resume and said, "Dude, I've seen this before, and here's what you got to do." And the guy went, "Gosh, I think you're actually right. They're going for a full gut out." So the IA that sent out there with Trent, so this is much more severe than I think we even thought. But here's the interesting observation. It hadn't been properly mitigated for water. And our greatest fear is that our GC friends who want to put these people's lives back together are, unfortunately, if they don't have the water remediated properly, they're encapsulating that water. And come June or July, when it gets good and warm here, we're afraid some of these clients are going to have black mold issues. And if you wait until then and the black mold shows up, the carrier's probably not going to pay for it. So we're trying to avoid massive problems for our clients, massive problems for our contractors. And that is why you and I are talking, my friends. So please tell the gang, because I know this video is going to go out. I'm sharing it with every contractor I know. I'm going to share it on some of the social media. I'm sure you're going to do the same. So tell us what you think and how we resolve this properly.
Well, you did a good job of encompassing a lot of the struggles we're seeing. Even you mentioned it. This is unprecedented, and it's almost unfathomable. And Russ, before we get started, I'll tell you the one thing that I've been talking to all of my guys. I have friends across the country and actually the world, and they're like, "What's it like down there?" Because they're hearing the story of the number of claims, and they're thinking of Katrina. But if you're driving down the freeway, you see no damage. This is a different kind of event where there's no environmental issues around any of the snow. It's 75 or 77 today.
Beautiful.
Everything's open. Most things are open, restaurants and hotels. So it's deceivingly like people are minimizing the impact, but it really is there. So it's behind closed doors. So a little bit about me, Russ, just so that everyone knows. I want everyone to know that I know what I'm talking about. It's really important to me. I am now a business coach and consultant and an industry expert that I do a lot of public speaking, and I teach a lot of classes about water damage and fire and mold and everything to do with natural disasters. So I've traveled all of the US and the world on hurricanes, Katrina, project management, and things like that. So, but I've also I put a pencil to it one time, probably around 12,000 hours of training and things. So, I've got short of being an internal a hygienist, I have a lot of certificates and things like that. So, and then I've got the work experience to back it up. So I came here from Virginia. I have a consulting firm, but this is home for me. I grew up in East Texas and I saw the impact, and I had a calling, and I said, I have a very specific thing that I know how to do, and this is something that's needed now. So it was time to put that, to play. So I'm here supporting contractors and a lot of GCs, and I'm seeing the same thing, that there is a lot of work to be done. And the truth is there aren't enough water mitigation specialists to do it all. We need to be working together with our GC partners. And so there are some cases where there can be some demolition done by some GC crews, but you've already mentioned that the water needs to be, there's bound water. And when water is bound, that means, like even today, there are jobs that 5 days ago looked horrible. Today, they've absorbed into the substrate, the structure, and that's bound in there, and it will express out. And that's where you said the mold comes from. The problem is many people in June, July will be sick and not know where it's coming from. They will just go to their doctor and not put two and two together. And that's what happened after Harvey. People were really getting a lot of Lyme disease is one of them. Luckily, this water was clean as far as contamination level goes. That's another thing that has people kind of treating a little less importantly. But the same thing, we had that case this morning where the contractor, he was just tearing it all out, but it needs to be done specially. And something I wanted to talk about, we are still, Russ, and you know this, we're still in a window of time where we're still in water mitigation mode, but that window is going to shrink. And I'm guessing it's around 2 more weeks before it turns into, it legitimately becomes a microbial impact hazard. And that's going to change the game. That's why we need to be very diligent and smart now, working together, because Texas is a mold restriction. There's mold regulation, and only certain contractors. So not just any restoration contractor or mitigation company can do mold. It has to be a licensed one, and there aren't enough of them to handle the number of claims that are going to be out there. And that's going to cause these homes to be stalled out. And it's going to have the GC train is going to slow down. People won't get their houses done. And I'm afraid of a lot of contractors not knowing the GC side, the interior finishers and renovators. They're not going to know there is this regulation, and they're going to hurt their brand, the liability exposure, and then their reputation. So I think that education is really it, but also how can we work together? Because everybody's a little afraid of missing the boat here. Everybody's grabbing. We kind of go into that frenzy, and a lot of people are getting a lot of calls, especially if that's a good brand. But I really want to tell everybody, we need to have set expectations with our customers, our insureds, and let them know that there is a sequence. And I know how fast they want this to go, but there is a very procedural sequence that things need to happen. And that starts with an assessment. I really can't tell you enough how much, I would say 3/4 of our industry, Russ, doesn't understand the regulation on asbestos for OSHA. I will tell you right now, my circle of restoration contractors that we have teamed together, you test every structure you go into, and that's what the language in OSHA says. There's a lot of these theories and myths that it's 1978 or 81 or 94. Those are all not accurate. Those are time and dates that certain materials were banned to be made in America. but you can still go to Home Depot, Lowe's, or anywhere and buy material, usually joint compound and certain mastics and caulk and insulation wrap that are hot. I have found asbestos in homes and in structures as late as 2017. OSHA has regulations that and if you read the language, there is no date saying only this. Now, a homeowner, an insured, jurisdiction for them is not with OSHA. It's us protecting our workers, those that we're in charge of. And there's no language that says we must prove that there is no contaminant, not saying on the date range. So I will tell you, there are a lot of structures just this week that we had tested after demolition was started. Exposure, hot.
Wow.
So I want everyone to really, as much as it's hard to say, pump the brakes a little bit and start thinking, are we doing the best thing for the long term of what needs to be done for our state, for our companies, and for our insureds? But I do want a lot of people to see this. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean that we all have to get a water damage company to wait for them? I think there are ways that we can work together. And you and I both sit with the APA, and we're both members of the APA. And Doug and I and John Dye and a couple of other people were saying, we're probably going to get to a point where we're going to try to have some workshops here and do some more things and bring this education in. But we need to leverage the media outlets that we all share to spread the right message and make sure everyone's clear and that there's plenty of work for everybody. But this is, I've been an expert witness in cases where individuals got very sick from mold. It's called SEERS, chronic immune. It's basically a chronic immune deficiency and it causes lesions on the brain fog, early onset dementia, things like that, and bronchial issues. It's really just ugly. Not everyone's different, but you don't know what someone's susceptibility is for that. So I really want contractors and you, Russ, and I'm talking, I want everyone to say, if it's heavily impacted. Now, if it's drier today than it was last week, it probably is all in the walls and it needs inspection. So reach out to a restoration company, and they're very busy, but they have the equipment, they have the know-how. And I will say on the last part, and you're going to know this way better than me, the insurance companies are not writing a free pass to skip all the steps. They're going to be asking for dry logs, justification of the equipment, and things like that. But I just don't want to see these houses torn apart and hurry back with insulation, drywall, and cabinets, and it not be dry, because it's not serving the people we're saying we should serve. I hope that's clear.
That's an excellent point. And, from our perspective as public adjusters, our other great fear is, we beat this horse to death. We know this event wasn't planned. The carriers are going to be real tight with the checkbook. They have to be, because they didn't model this out. And so we know that it's almost guaranteed that they're going to be more than anxious to write a small check early than a big check later.
And I'm seeing that already.
If these clients, especially ones who do not have representation, we're signing up as many as we can. And so are some of my peers. There's some great PAs in Texas, and we're all very active, and we want to cooperate with each other. So there's more business that can go around. But our greatest fears, especially if a contractor comes in, tears it all out, it's not properly mitigated, and the insurance company comes up with a check that looks okay, they're going to rush the process and start the work. And then when mold starts happening later, they're going to go, they are done. So I think the patience factor it's difficult for customers to accept. I wouldn't want to be out of my house for months, because of this. But at the same time, we really have to implore, especially if the contractor is the only connection they have. And in Texas, the contractor can't legally negotiate or act as a de facto adjuster. No. But in this case, they're the only expert on the scene. And they do have every right to point out damage and write an estimate for said damage. But I'm just afraid that they're going to be accepting settlements that are inappropriate, so that they can rush and get the work going. Because everybody, we're capitalists. We're here to help people, but we're also here to make money while we're helping people. And I just think what you're saying just is resoundingly true. And I just want these guys to understand this is not a hailstorm. This isn't like, let's see who can go out there and knock as many doors and throw as many roofs on as fast as we can. It's not like that. So Klark, tell me, when we discussed this the other day, you kind of have built, for lack of a better word, a clearinghouse of your peers that you mentor to that have come down here to help. Can you explain how my contractors or my clients can reach out and get somebody that can help them?
Yeah, I love that. So not only, I used to be a contractor for a very long time. I worked for someone nationwide, then I had my own, and then I became a coach and a consultant. But I saw that there was still a need for community and collaboration. So we started something. We started with a Facebook group. I think there's a lot of good ones. Level the Playing Field is one that you and I and C. Patrick and Tony are doing such a phenomenal job of just delivering good content and housing good people and bringing them together. We did much of the same thing on the restoration, the remediation side, called the Restoration Rebels. And we have now, a lot of our members said we'd like to be part of something a little more tangible and exclusive, almost like a mastermind type thing or coalition. So it really is more of a coalition. So we started what's called the Alliance of Independent Restorers. And it's they pay dues to be part of this. And for that, it's a community. We do education. We have a humongous library online of documents. We do gatherings. We have chapters around the country. I've leveraged that group, and we have between America, Australia, and here, we have about 350 vetted professionals. So they've got to be certified firms. They've got to have good standing with, social media, presence and reviews and peers, things like that. So they are quality people, and we've leveraged the ones that could. Now, unfortunately, some of them are up north and they're getting a lot of ice dams and they just are having their own surges. But some of those that had companies that could spare teams have brought crews down here with their own equipment, because equipment is at a very short supply. So we probably have in Texas right now, between members in Texas and outside of the state, we probably have 45 or 50 other companies here, and they're running around with leads that they're either getting from other peers. The local companies have stacks of calls that they just couldn't get to. Like within the first 3 hours, one guy in Frisco said, I had 510 leads, just name and phone number, and we could only do 40 at a time. So they're recircling back. But the problem again is, as this thing starts to dry itself because it's warm outside, the public's perception is that it's okay now. And I think that's just not I would at least let someone come do a moisture inspection and assessment and make sure there's not some hidden damage while they still have the ability to open a claim instead of when that window closes. But we probably have about 45 companies here, and probably somewhere around 600 people and few tens of thousands of pieces of equipment that will be here for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and then go back home to their home base. So my heart goes out to people that leave their families and bring their employees to a place they've never been. As lovely as Texas is, some people are just, uncomfortable being away, but this is kind of where the empathy comes in. This is when we step in. We don't always, this is a time where all our training comes to a head, and I'm really proud to be part of it. I'm overwhelmed.
I love it, man. And just to clarify for the folks watching this, these folks that you're going to bring to the table, they're not there to take business from the contractor. They're there to enhance the process and act as almost like a sub, correct? And at the end of the day, they're going to create a situation where my contractors are going to do the work properly and not have that fear of something going south in the future. Am I correct on that?
They know they need the help and support of the local GCs and other GCs, and they can only do so much at a time. But yes, several of them are already working with GCs that you and I both know, and they're supplementing, and they're figuring out, this is my lane. Because some of these jobs are also pack outs, like what we call a pack out. The contents have to be removed. And so we have companies that especially will come in and move it, inventory it. Some of that's damaged and it has to be inventoried for the homeowner. So there are some things that don't necessarily happen on the GC side that serve the customer better. And I think that in my dream is that after this will open a new union between some of these people, and a new collaborative opportunity for everybody to say, maybe this is something we should do more often to better serve and to really show the insurance company, you're not just going to write a short check. There are other processes that are getting skipped. I had one yesterday out in Heath, if you know where Heath at Lake Ray Hubbard. 6,800 square foot house, 2.2, something like that. Homeowner said, "Oh, insurance already came by here and wrote an estimate and gave me a dollar amount." I said, "Based off what?" "Well, he wrote his own estimate." I said, "That's not going to get you for this house, these finishes and these contents. That's just a portion of what you need." And so we need a professional to come out that knows how to vision exactly what can be salvaged and what can't, and put real valuation on these claims, so that we don't have, because once these carriers, they're going to have hundreds of thousands of claims, it's going to get real slow. A lot of independents and a lot of underqualified sheets are going to get written in the next couple of months too.
That's a great point. And, and I love that whole, it takes a village.
It does.
Theory in this. And there's been, and I'm not going to lie, there's been some contention with contractors and PAs and attorneys, and that has to stop. We all have to work together. We all have a role. We have an important role. Us PAs are there to, make sure the fox isn't guarding the hen house.
Yeah.
And the carrier doesn't mistreat the client. The contractors are there to put these people's lives back together. You guys are just a part of that, but we have to get away from this territorial thought of, well, I don't want to give up this percent for that or this percent for that. That's not how this works. If we work together and make sure that we're all on the same page, man, it's going to serve our Texas customers so much better than everybody staking their territory and putting up those barriers. So I love it, man. I love the collaboration. I think this is really powerful.
Russ, let me add something. Whenever there's contention between groups like that, it always to me is lack of communication and lack of understanding. I think it's easy to say because we remember the bad contractors, but there's way more good that are trying to do the right thing than there are bad. The others just stand out because
100%.
we remember those. But there are people that I'm getting calls from Houston out to Lubbock that says, "You know what? We jumped into one and we immediately said this is out of our scope, and we have a reputation that we built over 12, 15 years. And I love the saying, it took me 20 years to build a reputation, but it takes me 5 minutes to lose it." So I think people that know of referral-based businesses need to do the right thing, and then just be business people and learn how to leverage those relationships, maximize your opportunity, and then just not be greedy. But I'm seeing some really good things, and I think things like you're doing and we're doing here, and with Steve Patrick, APA, I think that nirvana is obtainable eventually. But it's I've got
we're better together, my friend. We're all better together.
I've got a sign in my office, Russ. I'll show it to you one day. It says, "Society grows great when good men plant seeds to trees they know they will never sit in the shade of." So what we're doing now, we may never see what we're trying to improve, but we're going to leave here knowing we did it. So I hope that's the case.
I love it, man. Well, I'm going to share this. I'm going to shout this from the mountaintops. In the meantime, if you have any more updates, I'd be more than happy to jump on with you and do a follow up. But great information, Klark. Make sure you put out that all that contact info. I'm sure you can put that on the video.
I'll put it on
you don't mind sharing mine as well.
Yep.
Fantastic. And let's get this word out to everybody. And I think we should encourage the people watching this who are in the industry to share this with other peers, because again, we're all better together.
Yeah, I'm going to share the link to our association where you can go there and drop in some information and tell us where you are. We'll connect someone that's in that region that has capacity or the right type of fit. And then, of course, my contact information will be here. I'm in Dallas. I plan to be here in state. If I need to come out and take a look at something and kind of do some pointers, I will point my fingers and get people pushed off the right way or connect them with the people. Because some people are almost there. They just need to know a little more about the details. But some people just need full-blown, let's get a mitigation coming out here and just work under you. So whatever we'll do, we'll have all the information on here. And Russ, I'm so glad you're doing this, and your team and everybody you collaborate with. You got a great tribe.
Man, that sounds great, Klark. Well, thank you again, buddy. We will talk soon. And like I said, let's keep spreading the word.
Take care.